أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today, joining me in this amazing session today, we'll be talking about the topic you've all seen on the screen, and what we'll be discussing is how to guide our kids to understand halal and haram. Uh, a lot of the kids will ask questions as young as 5 years old as 20, as old as 50. People will still ask questions, and they don't understand sometimes why the Islamic legislations occur or have their place in human life in the first place. So we'll talk about why, and we'll talk about how to address this, especially with young kids, as many of us have young kids growing up. We all learn to know this is haram, this is halal. And sometimes in some cultures, the kids do not have the audacity to actually question why this is halal or this is haram. But you see, you cannot actually, kindle the light of curiosity in kids and in people. If they couldn't get an answer, you actually drilling them or directing them to fold out of Islam. You're directing them out of the way of Islam. If you ignore them, or you just want people to be dogmatic. So we'll talk about how to handle this situation, inshallah. What parent needs to do, inshallah, in preparation for that. Because see, kids will ask questions. And how do we actually tackle those questions? So when your child asks you, Mommy, Daddy, why is this halal? Why is it haram? Is it that Islam is the religion of this is not good, this is that, and having boundaries and having limitations for doing certain things or having boundaries for not doing certain things? Why is that happening? The norm in the society today is freedom. Freedom to the extent people say there's freedom to die. They say we can die. I don't want to leave this world anymore. I'm depressed. I want to go. I don't need anything to do with this world. And governments today are actually promoting that. They're supporting legislation, supporting the right of people to die. So imagine if the world is heading to that corner, or people make a decision for them to die. It's not someone kill them, but they want to die, and the government says yes, they have the rights to die. Subhanallah. That's why you will get to know that Islam is just not a religion of desire. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us not for us to come to live this dunya based on our own brain, but to live this dunya based on the way He felt it will be good for us. And when your kids ask you those questions, a lot of people will react in different ways. We have parents that will react that say, yeah, it is halal, it is haram. You don't have to question that. That's how it is. And the kids is not satisfied with those responses, and they're so curious to know more. And in that line of you not giving them a loving answer, or an answer that will rest their mind and keep them calm, you drive them away from Islam. So today I want to share with you a few tips that you can, use to discuss with your kids, and how do you need to understand the context as well of having a child ask that question and having a child believe in that and working with that. The first thing that we all need to understand about Allah's principles and Allah's rulings, the ahkam, the hudud in Islam, as we all understand, and I'll take you all to understand how the Rasulullah started the message of the Quran and the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Mecca. And that's why in Mecca for the entire 13 years, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was revealing ayat about Tawheed. Our submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So a child that does not understand Tawheed, does not understand who is Allah, the concept of Allah, how does Allah operate, what is the concept of being a Muslim, how do you feel as a Muslim, what should be your connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how do you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The usul of Tawheed is not in the heart of a child. Expect that child to argue with you about halal and haram. Expect that child to argue with you about halal and haram. And this is why we have a lot of problems in our society today. The first of the challenge is not about the child really hesitant to accept the halal or haram. The first problem is the problem of tawheed. the problem of Allah's divinity. Who do you seek help from? Allah. Who created you? Allah. If you want help, who do you go to first? Allah. Who is Allah and how does Allah operate? If you don't know this, you need to teach a child or find someone to teach them the correct aqidah. A lot of people are actually shunning away from learning aqidah today because they felt we don't need it. Wallahi, this is the foundation of ilm. This is the foundation of Islam. And that's why for the entire 13 years in Mecca, the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam have never started talking about not drinking alcohol. He has not started talking about, hudud and all this and that. He started with entrenching iman in the heart of the people. And so you as a parent that have your child consistently asking you and querying you about why this is halal, why is this haram, why is Islam having so much restrictions of what to do, you should know that your child needs to learn about the Tawheed first. They need to understand the Tawheed, and that's the first thing we need to do as parents. So when your child is asking you, the other thing is your child is asking you that question, you should appreciate that. When you say something is halal and your child is saying, why is it halal? Or why is it lawful to do it? For instance, you're saying to kill animal is halal, to kill goats, to kill sheep. We have in our society today the mantra of animal rights. So you have your child that's gone to school and they've told him or someone told them, they say, it's cruel to kill animals. It is cruel to kill in general. Everyone knows it's a bad thing to kill. And when you tell a little child, or they see you killing an animal, or they know that you killed an animal, they see you as a bad person. They see you've done something really weird and bad. I have my child, my daughter in this Eid al-Adha was asking me, I said we went to slaughter animal, sacrifice over here. And she was like, why? That's not nice. Why do you kill the animal? Why? That's not nice. That's evil. She was saying that a 5-year-old. Imagine that it's not her fault. She doesn't understand why that happens in the first place. And who commanded us to do that? It is lawful to do that. Or when Islam say you shouldn't have boyfriend, girlfriend, the kids be like, why do we not have to have that? Everyone is doing that. Islam say you shouldn't drink alcohol. People are like, why? Or Islam say you shouldn't listen to music. Like, why do we not to do that? Everyone is doing that. The first problem is not about your child being argumentative, it's because they don't understand Islam yet. They don't understand the concept of Tawheed yet. So as a parent, everyone, we need to teach our kids Tawheed. We need to teach them who is Allah, the sifats. We need to teach them التوحيد الألوهية, التوحيد الربوبية, توحيد الأسماء والصفات. We are lacking this in our homes. A lot of people actually messing up on this, parents in the first place. So the first point is about the Tawheed, because Allah mentioned in the Quran, in Surah Al-Ahzab, ayah 36, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وما كان لمؤمن ولا مؤمنة إذا قضى الله ورسوله أمرا أن يكون لهم الخيرة من أمرهم ومن يعص الله ورسوله فقد ضل ضلالا مبينا. Subhanallah. That it is not for a mu'min, a believing mu'min, meaning someone that has iman in their heart, ولا مؤمنة, and a believing woman that's so engulfed in the iman. If Allah ordained or commands something, say this is halal, this is haram, they will not query it. They will not query it. When Allah decided matter, when the Rasulullah said something in hadith, they don't question why is that supposed to be. They don't question why is that supposed to be. They know and they accept. Why? Because they have iman, they believe and trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the trust between a human being or a mu'min and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the first stage of you, dealing with the issue of why is this halal, why is this haram. As for a child, the child needs to be taught about why, who has given that order. Who is Allah? So Tawheed is the first thing that needs to be taught first. The second thing moving forward, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do not put halal and haram just as a rule because He is the king or He is the owner of the entire universe. It's not just Allah want to restrict us from enjoyment, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing this for us as an act of mercy. How many times have we as human beings, we do some actions and take some actions and later on we regret what we've done? Because why? The decision to do that stuff is from us, right? It's our own will. Allah created whatever we do. Wallahu khalaqakum wa ma ta'malun. Allah created us and what we'll be doing. But imagine you that do something that's wrong, but you don't know that's wrong. This is what Allah has destined and created for you to do at that time. Allah created the good and the bad. So we decide which one. And Allah give us the free will to make that decision. And that's why there will be Ashab al-Nar. That's why there will be Ashab al-Jannah. And Allah is warning us that this is the things that you need to do to be among the Ashab al-Jannah. If you do these certain things, you'll be among the Ashab al-Nar. So making restriction is not the purpose of halal and haram. Bal is an act of mercy because Allah knows the capacity of our intellect. We have done and taken actions in the past that we later on know that's wrong. Imagine that you got to know at that time you're taking that wrong action that's really wrong, and you have the conviction. How sweet would that be? But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us deficient, and the deficiency is compensated by the guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why a mu'min that already have iman in their heart will know that the act or the concept of halal and haram is not a matter of restriction, but is an act of mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to compensate our deficient brain. Our brain is deficient. We cannot think and think 100% correctly, completely all the time. This is a way you can approach a child. Of course, a child does already have iman in their heart. If a child does not understand the concept of Tawheed, this is the first thing to actually encourage and build in the home. And when question about halal and haram comes, what you need to say is an act of mercy. And the child or the person will ask, why is preventing someone from drinking alcohol is an act of mercy? Why is, preventing someone from having a boyfriend or girlfriend is an act of mercy? Why is preventing someone from listening to music is an act of mercy? Why is having someone not to eat pork an act of mercy? People will ask, they're like, but other people are doing it. Yes. And you're going to ask the person, if people actually drink alcohol and gets intoxicated, they fall in the gutter, whatever, they mess up themselves, and they come back to their senses, they actually regret their situation. How will it be if they actually know and actually accepted not to do that in the beginning? The meaning is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put this down so that we don't get the bad consequence of our actions that we decide to do out of our own deficient brain and lack of awareness of the consequence of action. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put it down that we should not eat pork. Later on, people now discovering that pork has some bacteria in there, which or some organisms that will cause disease into the body of human. But we didn't discover this, no one discovered this scientifically before now. But imagine that Rasulullah, Allah revealed the Quran to him, prohibiting human beings, or we Muslims, from eating pork, from drinking alcohol, from doing zina, from having boyfriend and girlfriend, except the marriage, halal marriage, wife or husband. This is an act of mercy. Everything has a consequence. Things that we do that's halal, Allah will make it easy for us to have a good ending. But when you do something that's haram, there's always a consequence for it, a bad consequence for that matter. Let's say you become unruly to your parents. Allah asks us as human beings that we should not disobey our parents. So imagine a child being unruly to their parents, saying sort of words. We always know what is going to be the end of those kind of parents or of those kind of kids. If their parents say something wrong or abuse them or curse them, that will reflect in their life forever. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us and Rasulullah taught us. Among the lessons he taught us is about the dua of the people that will not be rejected. Among them is the parent. So halal and haram is an act of mercy. It's not an act of prohibition or restrictions. It's an act of mercy and kindness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us. I give an example of people who do not want to eat animal. They say killing a cow is cruel. Killing animals is cruel. But the way Allah has designed our body, we cannot live without protein. We cannot live without protein. We cannot live healthy without proteinous food. It's really meat and some, things that it's in there. And imagine if human beings just feed on plant and leaves and, people become vegetarian. Look at how they look like. If not today, people are designing, artificial meat and all that. Subhanallah. What about all those people who have lived before us? Would you say they shouldn't eat meat? This is not possible. So Allah make it halal, and the best way to get to eating the meat is to kill the animal which Allah has put on earth for us. So we need to actually make people know, or our kids know, that halal and haram is not an act of restriction, but as an act of mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the brain of humankind is deficient, it's not complete. And Allah completes that by giving us a way of life to live. The same thing you can actually discuss with people or kids who are having this is you need to have this done with wisdom. How do you do this? You don't just crawl, scream, and say, this is how it is. You shouldn't query this. This is how I like this, and that. That's not how you approach issues. Like I mentioned in the beginning, anyone that wants to understand halal and haram, you can easily explain to someone who is the believing woman and man, if someone that have iman in their heart. And that's why, going back to the history, the Rasul Sallam, Allah gave him ayat talking about rulings, ahkam, in the beginning of the Risala. Meaning, he wants to make people submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then in Medina, the rulings, the ahkam of do not do this, do not do that, start coming. Because now the iman is already in the hearts of the people. They already trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's an act of trust. Imagine if you as a parent told your child, and your child trusts you so much. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. You tell them do not do this, and your child trusts you so much. Your child is not going to do it because they trust daddy will not do something or say something that's going to harm them. They believe in you. But you say Allah tell your child not to do something, but your child does not trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your child does not even know who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How come would they actually believe in what you're saying and accept it? So Iman, the Tawheed, is the first thing. But nevertheless, you still need to guide your child. With wisdom, when they come with this kind of question, you will ask them and actually reason with them and bring reasoning that will fit their own level. It's not an act of authority that you saying, oh, do not ask me questions about this anymore. That way you're shutting the means of knowledge for your child. They are curious, they are inquisitive, they want to learn about something that's not clear to them. And that's why Islam encouraged or admonished a Sahabi, I call him Sahabi. He met the Salam, he came to meet Salam and told him, Ya Rasulullah, adilli. He asked Salam to give him permission to commit zina. Everything is good, but this zina is not easy for him. Fornication. He said, Allah, give me permission. O Messenger of Allah, give me permission to have illicit, relation with people. He wants to do zina. Salam asked him, yeah, but what do you think if someone else did that to your wife? If someone else did that to your child? If someone did that to your own mother, how would you feel? You feel bad. And this is the same way people will feel if you do it to their own wife and to their own kids as well. Subhanallah, how you see the amazing way. So trying to flip the coin, on the person asking the question. So for example, your child is asking, Daddy, why do you say I shouldn't listen to music? For instance. And you say, you shouldn't listen to music. That's it. You need to sit down your child and explain why. Why Allah said music is haram? Why is it something in Islam that music should not be listened to? According to the consensus of the scholars, some people say music is halal or not, but in my own opinion, music is haram. And how and why would you explain that to kids? You're gonna have to bring reasoning with them, right? To their own level. Because most importantly, music will not be in the brain of the person who is memorizing the Quran. If you're memorizing the Quran and listening to music together at the same time, you will not be able to memorize the Quran. This is a fact. And of course, the music, people will say you're listening to Islamic music. The main thing about music is not about the sound, is about the instruments that's put together with the music. Someone that is singing, you can make a poem and use beautiful voices, that's allowed, right? But once you start using the musical instrument that's gonna make it look delusional, bum bum bum, this will cause a delusional state of mind. Someone will be doing like a mad person and doing, and this is irrational, which something they will not do in their own natural state without the music instrument. So they become weird and doing anyhow like a mad person, which naturally they will not do it when they're not having those musical instruments played in the first place. If they're not having that, they're just gonna be normal. But imagine now they're having an instrument, they become doing like a mad person, they say dancing, right? Dancing is allowed, but how do you do it? You know how people feel how they do when they have listened to music. So you need to have a way. That's an example. Or you want to challenge a child or try to help them understand how and why is it halal to eat a meat? Kids will ask you those questions. You shouldn't be worried. You shouldn't be concerned about that. This is curiosity. And you need to bring wisdom to their brain and to their mind to actually engage them in that. And you need to let them understand as well, what actually led to Allah making the halal. And how do we even derive that? How do we even know this is haram? Then you take them back to the Quran. Because it doesn't suffice for you to just ruminate it, maybe because you had someone saying it, or maybe because you have some people mentioning it, and you also you go with the crowd. You don't go with the crowd in Islam. So if you have a child that is inquisitive, asking question, you don't just stop at wisdom, at reasoning with them. You don't just stop at having to talk about, halal and haram being an act of mercy. Of course, that's the first thing is an act of mercy. You don't stop there. You don't stop at saying, halal and haram is this and that and trying to use your own mental reasoning to judge why, which is something allowed. But as well, you need to go back to where it's been said. Where in the Quran did Allah mention this is haram? Where in the hadith was it mentioned it's haram? Because the child that you want to explain to, we need to understand where the ruling is coming from, where that kind of reasoning is coming from. You cannot just make yourself the authority and let them think it's coming from your own part. They will not accept that. You need to bring them to what they all believe in. They believe in Allah, they believe in the messenger, and then you need to bring evidence from there. You know, you need to bring evidence because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make rulings and Rasulullah said something is prohibited not because they hate human beings or not because the Muslims are being hated not to enjoy life. No, people will see when Allah prohibits something or Rasulullah prohibits something as an act of depriving them of enjoyment. Kalla bala. This is not how it is. It's an act of mercy. It's an act to help us compensate for our own deficient brain. So you need to go back to the Quran and the Sunnah, whatever it's the evidence that's been mentioned, the halal is this and this is haram. This is how you can teach a child. It's not about saying, yes, it's haram. Do not ask me a question about it anymore. You don't use authority, use wisdom. But at the same time, you need to take them back to the Quran. The source of your own assertion. You don't just make an assertion without having a proof for it. A proof that your child believes in, right? That's why I said Iman in the first place. So this is why you don't need to be a scholar. If you have your child asking why this is haram, this is halal, they need to know the source of what you're saying. If you don't know it, your child has prompted you to go learn about it. And that's why, inshallah, this summer, starting June 30th, we're having a course called the Root of Faith Summer Course. For those of you who still doubt in joining this course, it's a very amazing course, inshallah. It will be an intensive program, 2 hours per day for 4 days a week. They're trying to be learning hadith, the Quran, they will learn the seerah and learn the fiqh. So they go through some basic understanding of Islam, inshallah, together. So you need to go back to the principle of where did he even get that assertion from the Quran, from the Sunnah. And this is how to actually tame down the temperature. This is how to actually tame the ego and the exuberance coming from your child. Of course, they need to have had belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they need to bring, oh, this is the evidence. This is not just prohibition. This is what Allah has done. And this is what Allah said. This is what Salam said. And Allah even mentioned many ayats. ما كان الله ليجعل عليكم في الدين من حرج. ما كان الله ليجعل عليكم في الدين من حرج ولكن يريد. Allah does not make the deen as a burden on you. He does not make it as a burden for you and does not make it hard for you. Allah wants goodness for you. Allah wants goodness for you. So when halal and haram comes in place, it's not about a prohibition, it's an ease Allah wants to ease for us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-A'raf as well, right? When the people will say, Inna Allah ya'mur bil fahsha, Allah commands evil. Allah said, قل حرم ربي الفواحش ما ظهر منها وما بطن. Allah forbade all the evil, immorality. Allah forbade the evils. Anything that will cause harm to human beings, Allah forbade it. And that's where the prohibition comes from, is an act of protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us. ما ظهر منها وما بطن. The evils that we see and the evil that we don't see. Sometimes they are evil in some things we don't know. Allah forbade it because He know the inner part of those things that we couldn't see. So Allah gave us all these prohibitions. He gave us not as an act of wickedness, not as an act of deprivation. It's an act of protection. It's an act of mercy. And you need to go back to Quran and tell your child how. And the other thing you need to actually bear in mind is when you actually approach a child or you approach someone, tell them about halal and haram, you need to let them understand the benefits of why it is halal. You need to help them understand the benefit of why it's haram. You don't just go and let that be that way. The other thing you need to understand is teach love for boundaries of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your kids, not for them to fear the sin of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you don't teach about halal and haram as an act of fear to create fear in the heart of people. It's not gonna work. So you want to actually teach them that haram and halal as a way to understand the boundaries of humans and as a way to be connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Ma'idah, وَاللَّهُ يُرِيدُ أَن يَتُوبَ عَلَيْكُمْ وَيُرِيدُ الَّذِينَ يَتَّبِعُونَ الشَّهَوَاتِ أن تميلوا ميلا عظيما. Allah wants to forgive you your sins. And Allah wants those who want to be astray to go astray. Because Allah has given إِنَّا هَدَيْنَاهُ السَّبِيلَ إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا. Allah has given us two parts. It's either we'll be grateful and obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or we'll be disobedient and not obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have that will, and that's why there's hellfire and that's why there's Jannah. Because people will pick either of those. Right? People will pick either of those. And this is kind of the moral. Like, we're not just teaching people halal and haram just because for them to fear us. And we don't want to use emotions to actually make halal and haram as well. Some parents, they might use it, to make the kids fear from this. This is not good, this halal is haram. You don't want to do that. You want to say the way it is. You want to say the way is this. Because Allah's mercy on us is an act of love from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's an act of favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, giving us understanding of something that we don't know it is bad for us. And Allah forbade it from us. We need to believe and accept that. And so this is how Islam understand halal and haram. So it's not about halal, haram, everything is haram. No. In Islam, many things are more halal than haram. Very few things are haram in Islam. And those things that are haram, they are done for a reason. Allah knows best. And sometimes today we're all getting to know, with advancement in knowledge, we're getting to know how and why Allah make this forbidding. So my last feedback for parents and advice for everyone: when your child asks you about halal and haram, do not shut them off. It's an act of curiosity. You don't want to harm them by killing the nur of that curiosity in your heart. And that's how they'll get to understand. But you need to take action first. Have them understand who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because they need to trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before they can obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He protect you, it support you, give you everything. And that's why you obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at your own will. But your kids or someone that is querying you or being inquisitive and trying to understand and justify why they should do something Allah has forbade, you need to have them understand who is Allah and why did Allah brought up those rulings in the first place. So do not approach those questions with harshness, but rather teach your child the Tawheed. Let them understand who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then try to reason with them and bring things close with them to reason along with you. And thirdly, try to go into the Quran and the Hadith, wherever it is mentioned that it's halal, read it out to them. Read it together from the Quran. Read it together from the Hadith. This is why this is halal, this is why this is haram. Do not close the door of Iman to your child by shutting them down when they ask questions. Explain, take your time to teach them. If you don't know, ask people to explain to them. Okay, so our Root of Faith summer course is an amazing opportunity for you right now as a parent if you want your child to learn more deeper about Islam, so they understand better about halal and haram. It becomes not, it's not, it's now clear more to your child. It's not a mystery anymore about why halal is halal, about why haram is haram. This Root of Faith summer course, inshallah, will help your child get that gist. Unfortunately, the program is gonna be having few spots. 20 people only admitted into this course for this year. We already have about 12 students that are starting with us next week. We have 8 students, 8 spots left. So if it's you right now that's really excited and want your child to be able to discern between halal and haram and doing that with love, forbidding halal, forbidding haram because they understand it, they trust Allah decision for making it haram, doing halal things because they trust Allah decision for making them do it. Imagine the Eid al-Adha. A normal human will see that. Why do we kill animal? SubhanAllah, this year I actually did the udhiyah myself, and the iman of Allah, iman, actually I increase in iman when doing the udhiyah, the slaughtering, because I feel the connection of what Allah did for us as human beings. The might, the mighty of Allah, the might of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wisdom behind having us to slaughter the animals to eat. This is something that if you've not done before, try to do it. It's amazing, subhanAllah. You increase in iman. Your kids will ask you this, and you're gonna say, "What do you say for killing an animal?" They've brainwashed them in school, letting them know it's cruel to kill animals, but it is halal in Islam. And as a Muslim, you cannot make haram what Allah has made halal. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our kids the coolness of our eyes. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to entrench iman in their heart. So lastly, we have very few spots remaining in the Summer Root of Faith course. So sign up today. You check the link below this video. You see the Root of Faith Summer course. So sign up if you're interested in joining us in the program. And lastly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hates rebellion. So when a child is really hesitant and do not want to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you don't want to actually be, harsh on them. Try to have them learn, understand Islam, understand Allah, understand why Allah make the prohibitions, letting them know this is an act of mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is an act of protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah's wisdom supersede ours. But today, alhamdulillah, many things that's forbidden in Islam and things that we do not know before and we don't understand better, advancement in knowledge has brought those things before our eyes, and we've seen the reality of the truth from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Rasulullah. So until we meet next week, inshallah, for the next episode, my name is Imam Muhammad from Maaher Academy. Inshallah, we'll see you next week. And if you have any question, so put in the comment. Inshallah, I'm gonna reach out to you, or one of my team is gonna reach out to you. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله ولكم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك ونشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت ونستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.